Everyone, and good morning, Wichita. I believe that we are now streaming live, so I appreciate all who've attended also in person as well as joining us virtually. My name is Lily Wu. I serve as the mayor of the city of Wichita alongside 6 council members, and I am very grateful to Kansas Leadership Center for hosting today's first tri-governmental meeting between the city of Wichita, 7 electeds, the Sedgwick County Commission, 5 electeds, and also the USD 259 Wichita School Board. This impetus of having a tri-governmental meeting really was the start of an idea of how we can collaborate more and share ideas more openly. And I really appreciate the participation of Chairman Beatty as well as Board President Diane Albert. And so I'm going to just, again, welcome you all to this tri-governmental meeting, and I'll ask each of the council members to introduce themselves and which districts they represent, and then we'll pass it to Chairman Beatty.
Maggie Ballard, Wichita City Council, District 6.
Dalton Glasscock, Wichita City Council, District 4.
Mike Oheisel, Wichita City Council, District 3.
Good morning. I don't think it's on. I'll fix it. Good morning. Becky Tuttle, representing District 2.
Thank you very much, council members. Chairman Beatty.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. Thank you, Kansas Leadership Center, for hosting, not just moderating that first town hall that we had on June 4th, but also this and inviting us into your space today. We're very grateful. This is a unique opportunity, the tri-government, to bring collectively, bad math, but I think it's rather close, $2.3 billion of local government budgets into one room to have discussions. This is a unique opportunity really to hear feedback from that June 4th town hall, what the community was saying and how they interpret what we're doing and the services we're providing. But also, in my view, one of the greatest opportunities we have together is really to come together with our USD 259, the school board, and really try to understand challenges, opportunities, ways that we can partner, ways that we can help shore up gaps. Electeds in this community. So we're really excited to be at the table, not just City of Wichita, but the USD 259 as well. So really excited for the conversation today. We'll allow our commissioners to introduce themselves.
Okay, good morning, and it's good to see a nice crowd. Thank you, support staff and others, citizens that are interested in being here. And thanks for hosting. I'm Pete Meitzner, represent District 1, which is basically the northeast quadrant, or 5th of Sedgwick County.
Good morning. I'm Stephanie Wise. I am the Commissioner for District 3, which is West Side, Sedgwick County, and thank you for having us.
Good morning. I'm Jeff Blueball, represent District 2, Southwest Sedgwick County. Very excited to be here, being a former council member as well as being a former school board member.
Hello there. I'm Jim Howell, County Commission for District 5, which is the southeast part of the county, basically south of Kellogg and east of the river. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Excited to be here. Diane, take it away.
Yeah, thank you for extending the invite to the Wichita Public Schools to participate in this, and to Commissioner Beatty's point of students are the future and they will be future leaders. I remember sitting at Southeast High School where I graduated from, and some adult at the time was saying, you guys are the future leaders of our area. And I didn't really think too deeply about it at the time, but just for a point of reference, the mayor is a product of USD 259. The chairman is a product of 259, and I am a product of 259. So we really are the future of the local leaders. And so we have students that are attending our schools right now that will be future leaders in our area. So thank you for bringing that attention to that. And so my name is Diane Albert. I represent District 1 and serve as the board president for USD 259. And we'll go down the row.
Thank you. This is what I would call a phenomenal opportunity. When I read the minutes from the prior meeting, I was just so impressed and so encouraged with how it is that we as a governing body team can continue to move USD 259, City of Wichita, and Sedgwick County forward. My name is Melody McCrae Miller. I am, the district is my district. I'm the at-large district member, former county commissioner, and I really look forward to seeing us be able to work collectively in improving, enhancing, and just joining together to do good for our communities. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Hazel Stabler. I represent District 6, which is Midtown.
Morning all, I'm Nog Vong. I represent District 3, South and Southeast Wichita.
Thank you all very much for introducing yourselves. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and then start the call to order? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Chairman Beatty.
Okay, traditionally, when we've had an en banc at the City of Wichita, we've done this more formal, as if we're having like a Wednesday morning Board of County Commission meeting where we'll call a roll call, we'll have the clerk doing minutes. We're actually going to take a little different approach today. This is going to be more like a staff meeting, to where it'll be less formal. There will be no motions taken today. This is really about just listening and learning, offering dialogue and feedback. So we are ready to go, and the meeting can be called to order. Diane, are you guys ready to go as well?
Yes.
Okay, Jason, you want to take it away?
Yes. And I'm Julia Fabris McBride. This is Jason Bosch. We are your facilitators from the Kansas Leadership Center. And actually, Chairman Beatty and Mayor Wu, President Albert, in terms of informality, we had a question about how you would like us to address the members of your body. Should we use titles or should we use first names in this setting?
I'm just Mike.
Just Mike.
You could just call us by our first name.
Okay.
And I will ask if you can, the cameras are, I think, pointed this way so that everyone in our audience online can also view.
Yes, and we have cameras over here. We have cameras pointed in different directions this way for the at-home audience. Thank you. Again, I'm Julia. This is Jason. And we are here to facilitate a conversation about shared services and collaboration among the three bodies. Our purpose today is ultimately to choose a shared service. There is energy, there is commitment among the three bodies to choose a shared service where you can collaborate and make more of an impact than you would alone for the benefit of the community. So this morning, we'll explore different avenues, most of which were suggested at the June 4th Town Hall, with a couple of additions. We'll acknowledge places where the city and the county particularly are already collaborating, and we'll open up conversation to allow you to ask questions of one another, to share perspectives and feedback, and ultimately, by 11 o'clock, if not sooner, to come to consensus. And I've heard a lot of people wanting to, from members of the three elected bodies, we want next steps. So we will do our best to wrangle you to get to next steps where there can be action that you and your staffs can take after this meeting. So we'll jump in. The process today is to quickly review, and you have it on a sheet of paper, the places where you are currently sharing services. They're summarized on this sheet of paper. We're not going to spend much time there. If there are questions from any of the commissioners or city council members or school board members about those, For clarity, you can raise those, but we really intend to just spend 2 minutes there. From there, we will get into that facilitated discussion, and we'll actually do some straw polling at the beginning to help us see where some of the energy might be. And by the end, we want to identify one area for collaboration, again, that staffs can go back and dig into and think about how to accomplish that. Does that sound fair enough? Ryan, Lily, Diane? Yeah. Okay. So here are the places where the city and the county and to some extent USD 259 are already sharing services. And you can look at your handout if you want to review that in more detail. We have the Metropolitan Area Planning Department, 911 Emergency Communications Department, Building and Construction Department, the Healthcare Future Ready Center, the Manufacturing Future Ready Center, and Homeless Services, and the Second Light Multi-Agency Center. Any questions for clarification about those services? Okay. Jason.
Okay, so we wanted to spend a few minutes this morning recapping the June 4th town hall to give you a sense of the process that we used in that community town hall that resulted in some of the high-level themes that we'll take a look at and have some discussion around today. So elected officials, you should have a second handout that has a list of some of the key themes that came out of the town hall meeting, and I'll just sort of walk you through the process that we facilitated on June 4 to arrive at those themes in your handout. So June 4th, Mayor Wu, Commissioner Beatty, and President Albert jointly hosted a community town hall meeting. KLC partnered to facilitate that community town hall, the purpose of which was to get some input from the community about areas for possible collaboration, areas where the three governing bodies might come together and explore new areas to collaborate on or to enhance existing areas of collaboration. So we started the evening with an opportunity for all members of the community present, to submit some ideas. Folks had note cards and had an opportunity to just generate lots of ideas about opportunities for collaboration. There were about 80 members of the public in attendance that evening. And through that exercise of asking folks to submit ideas on note cards, we received 139 different ideas, ways that the three entities might come together and collaborate. We then asked members of the community to get into some small groups together and had some small group discussion around those potential areas for collaboration, and then spent some time having small groups share out with us some of the conversations that they had around potential shared services, and had some opportunity then for our elected officials to engage with the public, ask questions, and further dialogue around those ideas. We took those 139 ideas and we sort of analyzed them and synthesized them into 7 themes, 7 broad areas that the community identified that they are interested in exploring ways to collaborate around, ways to share services. So, these are in the 7 yellow boxes here are the 7 broad themes that resulted from those 139 ideas submitted by the community. So family and community well-being, mental health and social services, diversity, equity, and inclusion, education system improvement, civic engagement and governance, infrastructure and environment, and arts, culture, and economic development. And on the handout that you have with those themes, you'll see some bulleted sub-themes that elevated out of the ideas submitted by members of the community. So if you're wondering, well, what is it that the community was looking for example, with family and community well-being, you'll see some of those big sub-themes that emerged out of that meeting. In our conversations with Ryan and Lily and Diane between that meeting and now, we had some further discussion about other areas or other themes that might be helpful for us to bring into this conversation today. So as a result of those conversations, we've added 2 more themes or potential areas of collaboration for our conversation this morning. One of those being future ready centers, and another being crime prevention and reduction. So these are sort of the 9 broad areas that we'll have some conversation around this morning. And as Julia noted earlier, our goal is to leave the room this morning having some level of consensus around one of these shared services that the 3 bodies might then go forward with and explore ways to share services here in the community. So that's sort of what got us into this room today for this conversation around identifying an area of collaboration. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Julia.
Thanks. We're going to dig in for a few minutes to that first question. What would be the hallmarks of a knock it out of the park, successful collaboration among these 3 bodies? And we're going to spend 10 minutes there before moving on to some crosstalk and conversation about, okay, what should it actually be? So we want to invite you to actually stand up and go find 1 or 2 members of, if you're on the commission, a member of the council and a member of the school board, and so on. And there's room down here. It's also easy to stand like this and have a conversation. So we'll spend about 10 minutes here, about 4 minutes in just conversation among 3 of you, and then we'll do some call outs and we'll make a list of what are we shooting for? How will we know if we've achieved a successful collaboration? So stand up if you want to stand up, stay seated, and someone will find you if you want to stay seated, and spend about 3 or 4 minutes addressing that first question. What would be the hallmarks of a successful collaboration? And this is among the electeds. There we go. We need somebody over here, maybe. Yeah, there we go. Okay. We've got, all right, yeah, not everybody gets a school board member. Yeah. Yeah, oh, you are. Here, hi, Julie. Hi. Yeah, maybe Mayor Wu and Jim? Yeah, there you go.
Yes, let's do that. Gather around.
I think we're in good shape, yep.
You want to join us, Jim? Absolutely. Okay.
Okay.
Right there. You want to go there?
There we go. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so just have a short conversation about what would be the hallmarks. Yeah.
Got one of these.
Collaboration with different
if you, we ended up with 4s, so you might want to go over and join Maggie.
All
and-
right. We'll make it a
Yeah. We need to. And then we'll ask one person. You can use this one if you want. We seconds, and then we'll ask one person to report out.
Yeah, that's exactly what
Take your seats, but remember who was in your group, and we'll ask one person from each group to share some of the themes. And Jason will come around with a mic. Okay, I heard someone being volunteered to speak for a group. Maybe we'll start with Melody, Jason, over here. First up.
This is grand.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. I guess I didn't have to sit down, did I? You've kind of found me. Well, we had a great, very brief conversation. 2 county commissioners, 1 city council member, and then a USD Board of Education. In that, what came up very quickly was homelessness. Homelessness. And in that homelessness, so in that homelessness, we wanted to really be able to not only identify the problem, but bring a realistic solution. So I quickly thought about the already collaborative relationship that USD 259 had with the city of Wichita when we basically had the gifting of Park Elementary for MAC. And then I thought about a program that USD 259 has now embarked on, and that is community schools. So we have actually implemented in the process of implementing community schools in 6 buildings. And really, that's where we could place that concept of not curing homelessness, but certainly working towards it.
Thank you. And I'm actually going to bracket homelessness and highlight identifying the problem, because we're looking at whatever we choose.
Yes.
What would success look like? That we'd identified the problem and we'd brought did you say solutions?
Real solutions.
Yeah.
Real solutions that we could, but through benchmarking, identify the, outcomes and actually track.
Yep.
Because that's going to bring us the data.
Yep. And this could be hallmarks of a successful collaboration around any area.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Thank you for getting us started.
You're welcome.
And who else will speak for a small group? Lily and then Becky? Yeah. Go ahead. And we've got to turn the mics on and off because it's way better for the streaming if we do. Okay.
Becky?
Becky.
Thank you. I met with Commissioner Blubaugh, myself, School Representative Hazel, and Councilmember Tuttle. We talked about transportation. We know what a huge barrier, I think for all of the entities, transportation is. Some of the things that we talked about was the city and the school district compete for drivers, whether it's wages or hours or, so we thought, that would be helpful. We also thought that transportation was maybe a low-hanging fruit, and it also would help reduce stigma and increase ridership. We know that that's a real thing, and maybe if we could teach the youth how to utilize all modes of public transportation, but certainly the buses, hopefully they would either teach their family or continue to use it as they continue to go through school or whatever that might look like. But we know that there is a stigma, and that is a citywide problem for sure. So it doesn't cost any more if you have one person on the bus or a bus full. So thank you.
Thank you. And Jason and I are trying to get to hallmarks of success of any project. And Melody, you spoke about homelessness. Maggie, you spoke about transportation. And I'm trying to pull out things like competition gets limited if we're successful in a collaboration. We're looking at something that's low-hanging fruit. We have an opportunity for people to teach and learn, and some of what I hear in that is for whatever this collaboration ends up being, to have a ripple effect. And then we're breaking through stigma. And for me, and I'll leave it to you to think about it, but those could apply to whatever we choose. Okay, there must be 2 more groups, yes?
We had the opportunity to have Jim, Julie, and Diane in our group, and the hallmarks of a successful collaboration: improved or better services, greater efficiencies, lower costs, and we also talked about having contributions of resources by each of the 3 entities. In addition, having one shared idea that we can champion. I know that Commissioner mentioned 911 and the health department as the current ones where we do a lot of collaboration and it's working. So he also mentioned one more thing, which was an opportunity for operational collaboration, something administrative or a janitorial type of service.
Thank you. And our hope is we'll come back to these at the end and keep them as staff continues to work on whatever we come up with today. So one more group. Thank you.
So in our group, there's me, Ryan, and Dalton. The first thing we talked about was a seamlessness and a universality in the programs, the products, the services that all three entities provide. Another hallmark of collaboration we talked about was for all three entities to have a shared benchmark and to have data sharing and for us to be able to track, progress monitor these goals together. And then above all, for all of us, hallmark of success is, the extent to which we prioritize community feedback and input. And so in making sure that, hey, this is not the only time that we meet, this is not the last time we meet, and that, we're really being intentional about ensuring that, folks, community members, have an active say, active participation in deciding like, hey, how is it that we can best align our resources and our goals together?
Thank you. Does anyone have anything you want to add to this list? A criteria or a hallmark that hasn't come up yet? Okay. Well, then I think we can move on to question 2. Thank you.
All right. So we're going to take question 2 here. Where are we most likely to be successful in a collaboration? And so we're gonna go back to the 9 themes that I introduced earlier. So where we've started here is thinking about, regardless of where the 3 governing bodies might collaborate, how would we know we're successful? What would success look like? And so we've got some criteria up here that would help us know whether we're being successful in a collaboration. So then the next question becomes, well, what are some areas where there's opportunity for us to collaborate in ways that might get us to these outcomes? So I'll ask you to take a look again at the themes, and you have that document in front of you, the 7 themes that emerged out of the town hall meeting with the 2 that we have added here. And I'll give you a moment just to look at that handout and sort of absorb some of the sub-themes that are on there. And then I'll give you a little bit more instruction for how we're going to begin to hone in on or prioritize some of these areas. So take just about 30 seconds and just take in what's on that handout. All right, so we'd like to try to get a little bit of a sense of which of these 9 areas might there already be some energy around or some interest in, where you think there's opportunity for success in a collaboration, where there's an opportunity to do some of the things that you all just identified here. So in front of you, somewhere on your table right in front of you there, you should have 3 little dot stickers like this. And what I'm going to ask you to do is think about which of these 9 themes you think have the greatest opportunity for success in a collaboration. And then at the back of the room here, we've got a board that sort of looks like the slide up here with each of those 9 areas. And when you're ready, I'm going to ask you to place your dot stickers under the area or areas of collaboration that you think there's the greatest opportunity for success, the greatest opportunity to do these things that you all just said. If you've got one area of those 9 that you think that's it, that's the one, you can put all 3 dot stickers under one area of collaboration. You can put 2 on one or 1 on the other, or you can put 1 sticker each on 3 different areas. So you can allocate your dots however you would like, but we'll ask you to place your dots in under the headings on the board back there of the areas of collaboration where you think there's the greatest opportunity for success among these 3 bodies. So as soon as you are ready, as you're ready, you can go ahead and grab your stickers and place them up there, and we'll see what emerges.
You can't get extra stickers. The Dippin' Dot. We call them the Dippin' Dot.
Okay, has everyone had a chance to get their dots up there? Julia, what are you noticing?
Well, I think I'll go ahead and tally these. And we should note this is not voting. This is just a facilitator's way to get some data in the room, right?
Yeah, we're just sort of trying, there's probably infinite opportunities for things that the 3 bodies could collaborate on. And this exercise is just to start to help us narrow the scope a little bit around a broad area where there might be some energy or where you see opportunity for success.
So under family and community well-being, There are 10 dots, and the colors link to the different bodies. So I know that green was the city, so there's 2 from the city, and which were the other 2?
County is red and school district is orange.
County is red and school district is orange. So there's a mix here. There are 8 under mental health and social services. Again, a mix, county and school board, and sort of half 4 and 3, and then 1 from the city. And remember, everybody got 3. So. One person used their dot under civic engagement and governance, none under diversity, equity, inclusion, or education systems improvement. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all from the City Council for infrastructure and environment. 2 under arts, culture, and economic development. 7 under future ready centers, and orange was school board, is that right? Yeah.
Right.
Yes, okay. So 4, this is of interest among school board members, 4 dots on future ready centers, and then 2 from the commission and 1 from the council, makes 7. And there's a lot of interest here under crime prevention and reduction, especially among the commission, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, plus 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, plus 2 each. Now, 3 from the city and 2 from the school board. And remember, there are more city people here than, I think, than, no, is it 5, 5, 5? 5, 5, 5. Oh, awesome. Okay, interesting. 11, thank you, member of the audience, for, this is 11. Okay, so purely numbers-wise, we have 11 under crime prevention and reduction, 10 under family and community well-being, and 8 under mental health and social services. And then future ready centers, and those might be the 1, 2, 3, 4 that got elevated by members of all 3 bodies.
Yeah, and I think it might be helpful to acknowledge too that these 9 areas aren't necessarily 9 distinctly separate areas of collaboration, right? They impact each other, and the blue tape, those lines are probably a little more blurred really between these areas of collaboration, and there may be services under one that actually impacts the other. So just acknowledging these are not sort of hard and fast categories, and we're trying to start narrowing a little bit here where there might be some energy to focus our efforts. So I'd be curious to know why did you put the dots where you did? So that we asked you to think about which of those themes do you think it has the greatest opportunity for success in a collaboration, success being defined by the criteria that we set a moment ago. What were some of the thoughts that you were having about the areas you placed your dots in?
Well, I'm happy to start. When I appreciate, Jason, that you talked about there could be a lot of overlap between the two. I think mental health and social services, family and community well-being are tied at the hip. Yep. If you begin to look at one of the objectives that came out in the previous discussion was homelessness. If you look at 259 and the impact of homelessness at 259, I think you estimate between 600 and 800 kids are experiencing homelessness in your school district. There's roughly 850 to 1,000 kids in the foster care system in the school district. So if there's ways that we can intervene with the service collaboratively ComCare does our mental health intervention teams. We're in 34 different schools. If there's ways that we can collaborate better, our mental health and social services will have an impact on family and community well-being. And by deducing the impact of homelessness and foster care on crime prevention and reduction, it'll also have an impact there. So there's a lot of overlap, but seeing what we already do from the county standpoint through ComCare, I think there might be opportunities for us to really maybe impact even greater that will have a family and community well-being impact.
I'd have to agree with the commissioner there. I almost think the two should be combined, the family, community well-being, and mental health and social services. A lot of overlap there in the programs that you're trying to run to address all of those needs. And on the issue of crime prevention and reduction, there's some things that we are already doing that I'd like to see us maybe collaborate a little more on. Getting into the schools, talking to kids about fentanyl overdose, and some of the violence interrupters as well. Trying to get those into the community just to talk to kids about finding a better way. That pays dividends further down the road as these kids age up into adults and just become the community leaders and people who are out there working every day in the community going forward.
For me, I doubled down and I asked the question, what connects all of those? And for me, the one that literally connects, which is infrastructure and transit, connects. I think of the infrastructure that the school district has in connecting people. Think of us being the transit authority, but then not being able to go to county and have to stop at the border. And so when you're thinking of that, it ties into community and well-being in terms of economic security, ties into how do you connect people to mental health services? How do you improve systems? How do you connect more people? How do you connect people to the arts and culture and economic development? And so that's why I double down and put everything on infrastructure and transportation. I think it is, as Councilman Ballard just said, the ultimate barrier to everything else.
And if I could touch one more point on the crime prevention and reduction, I also kind of loosely interpret that, well, maybe not loosely, but active shooter drills. I think that is something definitely, and we are collaborating already, but I'd just full steam ahead on that one. I think that's worst case scenario for every elected in this room right now is something like that going on.
I struggled a little bit with arts and culture being in the same category with economic development, because I think economic development's very important, but it's not as pressing an issue, and I guess I just don't see the parallels as much between the two topics.
So maybe those are distinct themes in and of themselves.
And it sounds like you're saying that there's something with economic development, Jeff, that is important to you. Can you share out about that?
Everything with economic development is very important to me. I just think it's a different silo than arts and culture.
And is there...
I would have been more apt to put a dot on something than if it was just economic development, but not categorized into arts, culture, and economic development.
Yeah, and then as I look at it, it might, like the Future Ready centers might be a place where that economic development activity is happening.
Especially with these three groups, absolutely, there's economic development opportunities.
I think that I truly believe that the Future Ready centers is probably one of the greatest economic development tools that we have available to us in this community right now, for a lot of different reasons that I hope we explore in greater detail. But I think Future Ready centers is the greatest economic development opportunity that we have.
Yeah,
The only thing
I would agree with that in that I respect the school board and Kelly. I think the success, in my opinion, because I happen to serve two hats here. I'm on the board at WSU Tech, but the cooperation of WSU Tech with the Future Ready centers, I think, is a success. And if I see nods, then I think it's a building block of the, I hate to say future, but it is the future to help with these other categories, the homelessness and the ComCare services and things like that. That's kind of maybe it's an end result. It's an end to the finish line as these people get involved, these young people, and even young adults get involved in the Future Ready centers. Unless I hear anything contrary that says, no, it's let's go a different path. I think it's a future.
The only thing that I would like to add is just kind of an overarching, when you look at family and community well-being as well as mental health services and social services, and you look at the impact of those two, if fused together, that it has on crime prevention and reduction, to me, that just elevates, it really is low-hanging fruit for us as a tri-governmental entity. Because if you don't have a strong, sound family, then that's going to impact your community and community well-being. And of course, mental health services, as well as any other type of a resource, would be able to positively impact that if we were to increase capacity. And with those, when those are entrenched and we're working collectively, crime prevention and reduction, more specifically, is going to be an outcome of that. Data shows it. So I'm very pleased at what we saw in terms of the top three. And yes, future ready is something that we can really grow. But we need those other, particularly family and community well-being, which correlates with mental health.
Other thoughts or just reflections on what you're hearing, what you're seeing, and where the dots landed up there? Maybe.
I'll glean a little bit more on family, community, and mental health being tied together. I feel like each entity here is working in some aspect already on that field and continuing to do that. However, I see from the themes something that we could together work forward on. And I feel like it's the work piece. So to have a strong family, you have to have a job. To have young people not get into crime, you have to have something for them to do or earn. And so I feel like there's a piece here that maybe we can explore a little bit more about work and the value of work for mental well-being, as well as an economic opportunity for individuals, whether for the family member, for the parental or guardians, as well as the youth that they're raising. So I'm seeing a theme here on work.
Seeing that theme or want to speak to?
I can speak to it as well. Yeah, I think from my perspective, a lot of the issues we do face, especially in the context, mental health, social services, like the overall behavioral healthcare system, has a lot to do with our shortage of high quality behavioral health and like public health professionals. And so for me, it's USD 259, the city, the county. How can we build a pipeline of high quality mental health professionals? Again, even before the high school level, are there ways that we can pull our resources together, and make it easier, make it more affordable, for folks that go to USD 259 to become a doctor, become a psychologist, become a social worker. I think even beyond that, it's looking at teacher shortages, looking at shortages of plumbing, pipe fitting, electricians, again, like those skilled labor jobs as well. So I definitely would support elevating the economic development, specifically the workforce development piece, and really growing our own here in Wichita, here in Sedgwick County.
I'd just like to make a comment. I'm probably going to peel the onion back another layer, and I like where people are going, certainly with employment, but something that I think fits into all of these categories is literacy. And the data tells us that one of the number one predictors of adult health is third grade literacy. One of the number one predictors of adult incarceration is third grade literacy. And so if we truly want our kiddos to have a better life outcome, we want our community to have better outcomes, making sure that our kiddos are literate so they can get a job, so they can get to the resources that they need. It's awfully hard to ride our city transit if you're not literate, right? anything that we can do to help crime prevention and reduction for the jail. So to get a job, you have to be literate for the most part. So I know it's taking it back another layer, but it's just something that all three of us could really benefit from, but most importantly, the community. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Becky. And feel free to keep jumping in with thoughts and comments. I think this is a great opportunity for sort of just a conversation among the bodies now. And Julie and I will continue to jump in where helpful. So Maggie, please.
Thank you. I just want to lean into the transportation portion a little bit more. Since I've been on council, I have learned a lot about transportation. I know that ComCare did a pilot project, and their success rate of people getting to their appointments, it was a very good pilot project. So I think it shows transportation is a huge barrier. It's also a barrier for shift workers. Or transit drivers, as they definitely deserve a day off when City Hall is closed or on Sundays. Transit does not run. So I think those are some things that we need to talk about to expand the hours, lines. You know, we added a line in North Wichita for Dole and Johnson Controls. They needed more transportation for work, so we were able to add a line, and, you know, that helps with economic development as well. So I think that my colleagues and others have talked about workforce is incredibly important, but we have to be able to get them there. So thank you.
And what I'm hearing, some of what I'm hearing is that there are root issues that can prevent any of this. And that's why I keep going back to family and community well-being, as well as mental health and social services. I totally agree that in order, the stats speak for themselves, the data speaks for itself. When you talk about the repercussions of individuals that are not literate, I agree with you, Becky. But there are root causes behind why those individuals are, and I am talking about it now from an elementary perspective, from a student perspective. Who this individual grows into an adult, there are reasons why. There are root causes behind the individual not reaching that level of potential. And I think that being able to focus on meeting the needs of the persons helps in the overall potentiality, them to reach their potentiality. So.
Members of the different bodies have questions for one another, either within your council or commission or board or across councils.
I do. We're talking a lot about future ready centers, and I think we're making an assumption everybody in the room knows what they are. I independently do, because I'm a big fan of this and talk to some members over there frequently about these ideas. I don't know, Diane, if someone would be able to maybe let the public know, what are future ready centers, what's already in the community, and what are in the plans?
Yeah, to address that issue, I'm going to have our superintendent, Kelly Bielefeld, who really was the spearhead of getting the Future Ready Centers launched, speak to that.
All right. I've been delegated to. Kelly Bielefeld, Superintendent, Wichita Public Schools. We currently have 2 operating Future Ready Centers, and one will launch here in a couple weeks. They are centralized facilities. One is at 13th and Waco for advanced manufacturing. One is on East Harry across from St. Joe Hospital for healthcare. And the idea is any junior or senior can come to these facilities. We bus all students to them that want to go. No prerequisites, no prior, as long as they're on track to graduate. Any student can find a home there. And each of them have 3 tracks. So healthcare, we have students graduate with EMTs, CNAs, home health, EKG, techs. So the whole idea is getting kids into entry-level jobs upon graduation, if that's what they wanted, if that's what they choose to do. At the Future Ready Center for Advanced Manufacturing, we have an automation pathway, we have a sheet metal and composites pathway, and an aviation maintenance pathway. So the idea is we're aligning with the initiatives of the Greater Wichita Partnership, the Chamber, to create these talent pipelines that we all know we need to be continuing to be a thriving ecosystem here in the community. We will launch one for IT cyber. We call it the HACK, the Hub for Advanced Computer Knowledge. Ribbon cutting should be coming soon. That'll be cyber, networking, and computer repair, something along those lines, so hardware. And then we have plans eventually for a trades Future Ready Center, plumbing, electrical, HVAC, and energy. So the idea being we actually allow, Commissioner Beatty and I have talked about this, we allow any student, even outside, if the schedules line up, which is a challenge in high schools, but if schedules line up, any students able to come if there's space available, so they don't have to just be Wichita Public Schools students. They get credentials, they get college credit, they get a meaningful, clear pathway to industry. And I think if you talk to our friends at Spirit and Textron, they would rave about the program. They essentially would like to hire all of the students who graduate from the Aviation 1 if the students are willing to go into those fields. So we've seen success. We've proven concept. We're continuing to grow it. And it is a clear tool, I feel like, to echo Commissioner Meitzner, about economic development and just having clear talent pipeline for our kids and our community to see themselves in our community in a meaningful job that is not just a fast food or something like that. Something our community and our industries need.
Thank you.
Can I ask a follow-up question to Superintendent Bielefeld? Can you talk about the potential for the next Future Ready and what is still lacking in order to get the next Future Ready?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. What we're trying to create is a hub for those industries to know where to go to find students, right, or workers, future workers. So Textron does their internship interviews there for the summer internship program. We've done something similar at the healthcare facility too. We've hired this year a position called a career navigator that mirrors a little bit of what WSU Tech does to help our students get into the fields that they want to get into. So industry collaboration, that's one of the things that we need to continue to work on. Facilities, we call them Future Ready Centers, so we want them to be continually renewed and updated to whatever the future skills are that the students need. So today it might be how to use a CNC machine. Tomorrow it might be how to use AI to help produce some sort of widget or something like that. So to continue that collaboration with industry is important. Getting kids there. I know Dalton and Maggie have talked about transportation a lot. That we provide transportation for kids to get there, but outside of our district, that doesn't, we don't have any system for that. That could be a potential solution that, that we could work together on how that might look. And then just continually, we have a site for our trades FRC. It was part of the bond issue that failed. So what does that look like to put kids in a modern learning space that is ready for them to become future ready? And up to industry standard. Those are some of the factors. Through Excel and CT money with WSU Tech, we pay for, there's no barriers for students as far as uniforms, credentials, textbooks, all of that's taken care of. But the continual work-based learning opportunities, internships, youth employment, things like that, that's where we could work with community partners and industry partners to really help our kids get what they need to be ready for the future.
If I can have a follow-up real quick. Kelly, is this a model that you've seen elsewhere across the country that you're gleaning from, or what's the genesis of this?
Yeah, both and. So Dr. Scott Lucas and I, when I was in a different role, we went and traveled and saw some Airbus facilities and went to Kenosha, Wisconsin. And what we've tried to do, though, is really eliminate any of the barriers that kids have for getting into these. Some of our kids, they don't get the spark until they find the class that really excites them. And so once they get to the Future Ready Center, we'll see a lot of GPAs increase, attendance increase, those sorts of things. And we've done that by allowing for multiple on and off ramps for kids. So if you go and you don't like it, you can get out. If you go and you do like it, you can do more. Yeah, again, we pay for all the college credit, all the credentials, all of that. I mean, these kids walk out if they stay all 2 years. Work-based learning is embedded, so there's an internship embedded in the program. So on a little bit of an aside, especially a lot of our students who are growing up in poverty, 80% of our kids grow up in poverty. They have the skills, they have the potential, and they have the hunger. They just don't have the pathway, right? They just don't know the steps to take. A lot of us help our kids with those sorts of things. Well, if you're a first-generation family or language is a barrier, you may not know how to navigate the system. So that's what we've created this very clear pathway. Go here, go here, go here, get this credential, take this test, and these are nationally normed credentials, right? These are not just things we made up. When we give a student a CNC credential test, that's nationally recognized and industry recognized. So then we help them with interviews, we help them with resumes, we help them with benefits, right? Like, what does it mean to have a 401k, or what does it mean to have health care? Really, hopefully tearing down all the barriers we possibly can for a kid getting a meaningful job in Wichita, right, in our community. It's tied closely with our current or our local folks. So did that answer your question?
Thank you.
Well, I'm glad to hear about the trades being emphasized as well. Blue collar jobs definitely is something that our community can embrace. We need to give kids an alternative to necessarily going on to college, give them some good ways to actually have a family and support their family. Do you see any other gaps, I suppose, or do you hear it from any of the area businesses about what other areas the Future Ready Centers can focus on?
The other one that we've just recently kind of been kicking around, I don't know so the idea of the Future Ready Center is it's a path to an entry-level job, a good entry-level job. We hope and that a lot of our students aspire to go get a bachelor's degree or go get a master's degree. So it's not necessarily a stopping point, although it can be. The other one that we've been talking about is entrepreneurship, business, something in that vein. That's yet to come. Dr. Utash and I, when you get us in a room together, we tend to come up with lots of ideas. And so we're at 3, with the trades being the 4th one down the road. We'll see. But what we've really tried to do is, the 7 pillars of the Greater Wichita Partnership Economic Development is what we're trying to align ourselves to, right? So that we have clear talent pipelines within our community for our community. And as industry comes and visits and says, hey, could I see myself in Wichita? We have a clear answer to, here's how you might attract talent. Here's a pipeline that's already there for you. So we're still building it. We're in year 4. So it's not, I wouldn't say this has been a 20-year model, but we have seen a lot of fruit and a lot of kids that have had trajectory change because of it. So,
okay. Does the city or the county get involved and offer kids opportunities as they become certified in any particular fields? Maybe that's room to collaborate there, is posting job openings and trying to get them into good paying jobs with benefits through our separate bodies.
Yeah, I do think what Knock had said about we this year we are adding a pastoral care, mental health in the Future Ready Center for healthcare, right? There's a pathway now there that just got started for that. So this idea of, like, if we have this model that kids know and the community knows, then we can insert a need. One thing that I've talked to Chief Sullivan about is doing something in law enforcement. We have a pretty strong pathway in fire science down at South High. Do those kind of models also fit? And could those be ways that, as we are all looking at, Tom and Bob and I, we all have aging workforce, right? We all have people that are getting close to retirement. How do we backfill that with people that are interested in those professions? It could be a really good way to, turn up and down the faucet, so to speak, of pipeline work and what we need as a community, because we need the mental health workers for sure. So Dr. Utash and I, she did all the work on that one, but we now have a pathway for getting a credential and an associate's level recognized mental health worker that as we bring on the new hospital and all that locally, I think will be really beneficial. So
Thank you.
I'm going to tie in a little bit of what Commissioner Howell kind of mentioned earlier with the very first question, which was successful collaborations. And one of the things he mentioned was operational. So one of the things that I think all three bodies have is an IT department. And you just mentioned the Future Ready hack, which is information technology. Are there opportunities there maybe for a pathway for them to go and work at county, city, USD 259 IT? And then is there something maybe even there regarding IT that could be collaborative, that's operational? So it's more a question thrown out because I know that obviously IT is a portion of all of our budgets that is necessary and it continues to increase. So could there be some collaboration there?
Since the mayor mentioned I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
The mayor mentioned my name, I'd like to just throw out there that, again, I think if you look at your budget in the city and the school, I've not studied them closely, but for the county at least, I think that every governing body is similar. There's a large part of our budget that is administrative costs. And I think some of the opportunities for us to reduce our costs in terms of operation is to potentially look at some of those things we do already. And that's a lot of the discussion today is adding new services or expanding services, which I think generally will come with new costs, if you will. I'm actually talking about maybe doing some things we've already doing, but doing it maybe more together. And I know some people are going to cringe when I say this, but things like human resources or employee training. One of the things I really think is our greatest opportunity, and I mentioned this at our last en banc meeting, was employee benefit center, if you will, that deals with things like payroll and deals with things like health insurance. If you have a health clinic that's designed for employees and their families to access, and if you wanted to do this might be growing government a little bit, but there's been a lot of discussion about childcare for government agencies. If you wanted to do that, do it together rather than doing it separately if you do it at all. And so I think there's opportunities for us to look at not just IT, but administrative services that maybe goes beyond that to things like human resources and employee onboarding and training and employee records and I think it maybe goes over to things like some benefits, things like employee health plan, if you will. I don't want to take away something that somebody already likes, but I do think there's a way that we could collaborate together and provide, if you will, a more shared service, if you will, where employees would have basically a no cost health plan for them and their families that would be essentially by bringing us together. If you just do some simple math, there may be 30,000 or 40,000 dependents that are receiving health care through one of our three organizations. And the cost of that is staggering. So that's an opportunity where we could potentially save a lot of money by coming together. And again, in the private sector, we've seen business-based health clinics have cropped up across the nation as a way to save money for those employers. And so if you want to provide, if you will, a more comprehensive opportunity for employees to have a more financially accessible plan, this is an area where we might want to take a look at that. So I mentioned that at the en banc last time we got together. J.V. Johnson, they made a couple of comments about some interest in that, but generally fell flat. It didn't receive much of an audience. But I do think that in terms of administrative services, we all do very similar things. If you want to talk about coming together to do some of those things more comprehensively for three organizations, that might be our biggest opportunity.
Should see a show of hands about where there's some interest. I'm sensing energy around future ready centers and possibilities within that, including the idea of transportation or focus on IT or something there. There's also this proposal of something administrative that might again look like IT or benefits or HR, things you're doing already. Let's see a show of hands on who's interested in continuing to pursue those two, and then we can see if there's anything else that we need to really consider today. Who's interested in continuing to consider or maybe thinks we could be successful with a collaboration around future ready centers? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is not an either or. You can vote for lots of things. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay. And who thinks that it's worth continuing to explore because we could be successful around sharing administrative services, as Jim spoke about? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-ish, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so interest in both of those things. What else belongs on our plate at that level of discussion?
Well, what I'd like to bring us back to is the dots. So how are we going to incorporate what it is that we actually considered initially? The top 3, and then the fourth one was future ready. So how do we, and I'm totally supportive, but how do we incorporate family and mental health services as well as crime prevention and reduction? That's what I'd like to.
Well, we can't do it all. So what would be a way for you to propose, or for anyone here to propose, that this group could collaborate?
Yeah, that's why I'm throwing it back out to the group.
Yeah.
So in terms of looking at crime prevention and reduction, I think that was our top. I think it was 12, 11?
11.
So, yeah, how do we incorporate that? It's hugely important. How do we, as a tri-governmental entity, how do we focus on that? Because I know we're looking at other areas which are absolutely important, but I'm just trying to redirect us back to work.
If I could add a thought to that, I appreciate that, Melody. I think that obviously today is about trying to streamline and narrow the scope. So if we focus on mental health services, faith and community well-being, safety issues, we have to expand that table. We need to bring the experts that do this in each of we need Chief Sullivan and his team here. We need Sheriff Easter and his team here. We need Joan and the ComCare team here. We need to understand what's going on in the homeless population, the foster care population in your schools. So that's a second conversation, an expanded conversation with the experts in our community that are doing this work to identify gaps, then look at opportunities that we can shore up those gaps and maybe strengthen some of these things. So I agree. I think today, knowing that could be a focus, is we look at subsequent conversations where we expand the table and have those discussions.
Excellent. Then I would like to propose that we do at our next meeting, that we definitely do incorporate the top 3 that we initially identified as issues that we felt we could successfully collaborate on. So next meeting.
If I may, what does a school district do when they do identify a family who is homeless or children who are homeless? What is the process, and what services do you offer? Do you point them to other services in the community, or is there kind of a standard process that you guys follow?
Yeah, I'm going to allow Superintendent Kelly Bielefeld to answer that.
So we have federal funds that help support that, and 2 of the main things that our students experiencing homelessness are provided. The rights that they have are a right to attend the school that they're currently in, and then a right to expedited enrollment. So we transport students. A lot of those dollars go to transporting students. That if you're at Caldwell Elementary and you happen to move, you can still go to Caldwell Elementary. We'll bus you from anywhere in the district to get you there. Along with that, we allow direct certification for free lunches and some things like that. in addition to that, there's lots of ancillary services that we provide through a lot of donations from the community as far as school uniforms, school supplies, clothes, those sorts of things, and then coordinating with the adults in the kids' life to help get them, some secure and stable housing. So I've talked to Dawn and met with the board of Second Light and talked about having some office space at the MAC for our McKinney-Vento folks to be there to be able to serve, even though that shelter isn't serving kids necessarily. It's going to be the one-stop shop, so to speak, for any family that's in crisis like that. And so for us to be there to help support and say, how do we get your kid in school as quickly as possible? How do we get them there every day? We have busing that stops by the shelters that pick up kids every day in our community. And our definition of homelessness is a little different than the federal definition. But anyway, those are some things that we already do to support those families. And I think the MAC, honestly, is like Melody had said, is a pretty good example of us already doing this about 18 months ago, really working together as three entities to help solve problems for our community. So not that it's solved, but headed in the right direction.
And as we move forward with these three items, I think in particular, and I think the county would probably resonate with this too, is I have 3 school districts in my district. And so how do I not disenfranchise people in the Goddard School District or Hayes School District while we're working towards collaboration, moving towards collaboration? Because I want to be supportive, but also making sure that I represent those people in these conversations. So when it comes down to the Future Ready Center, access outside of USD 259, how is that possible if Wichita participates in it as well? I know as the county has multiple school districts in each one of theirs. So how do we work together in making sure we don't disenfranchise people outside of USD 259 in this process, whether it's moving forward with any of these 3 items?
But we accept students that are outside of USD 259 but we're not providing transportation. So I think the district has addressed a lot of barriers and provided solutions. So that way students, there's no cost to them to participate in the Future Ready Centers and to get the industry recognized certifications. Maybe outside of the district, transportation could be a conversation that could be part of that. So for the students that are Goddard School District students, they could maybe some kind of transit could be participated in from the city or the county level to get the students at the Future Ready Center.
I just wanted to make a comment. I don't know, I could be getting a little bit ahead of myself, but with the first meeting, we asked for the public to come and talk to us, which is where all of these 9 squares come from. And I didn't have near enough stickers, so I just don't want the public to think that we're coming in as the elected bodies now and we're like, oh, well, we want to do this, when they told us that all of these things were important. And I know all of them are huge and expensive and it's going to take a lot of work, but because we're focusing on a few, I don't want DEI to get lost or education system improvement. I don't want all of the rest of the things that are important to the public to get lost. And I don't know where the conversation will continue after this meeting. And like I said, I might be getting a little ahead of myself. I just wanted to make the point that we did ask the public for their feedback. They gave it to us, and now we're kind of, picking and choosing, what we want to continue to talk about. So I don't know what those next steps look like. I just wanted to throw that out there.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Maggie. Just one more comment, and I'm also getting ahead of myself, but as we're picking a topic, or if, whatever comes next, I'm not sure. But one of the things that I'm thinking about in my head is how are we going to be able to measure success, right? And how are we going to evaluate if what we're doing collaboratively is working? And so as we're thinking of something, we might want to infuse that into the conversation of what is something that's potentially tangible. Because if you can't evaluate it, why are you going to do it?
Well, and your small groups at the beginning of this meeting said that. Find something where we can measure and track it. Yeah. And Maggie, to your point, yes, I mean, this meeting is charged with honing down to one where the 3 bodies are most likely to be successful. But that doesn't negate anything that was said there as community needs and community interests and community assets. Jason, what are you thinking?
Hazel, did you?
I think I've done. So we were talking earlier about low-hanging fruit. And so I'm wondering, in this collaboration, are we trying to decide on something that will be fast and see quick results? Or are we looking at a long-term collaboration, or will it lead to a long-term collaboration?
Question.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a great question. I'll opine that I think there are some things on here, to Maggie's point, to the point earlier, we can combine those categories into some certain actions. What I would propose is that, particularly on faith and community well-being, mental health services, the crime prevention, is that's a separate subsequent meeting that we expand the table and have that conversation. And that's a long-term play with some benchmarks that we can look at numbers. I'm getting text messages from people that are watching the live stream that had no idea there's 1,000 kids in USD 259 that are experiencing foster care or homelessness. So part of this objective today is raise the awareness, not just for the community of challenges and opportunities, but for the other elected, so that we can collaborate our resources to say, how do we impact this? Like how do we mobilize our resources to impact that? So I would suggest that we get to work on planning a second meeting with those things in mind, with the necessary people. And these other themes that are coming up, Hazel, I think, particularly Future Ready centers, there's a lot of awareness that we need to be brought up to speed to figure out what does support even look like. Because I think Future Ready centers, again, when we talk about poverty, when we talk about mental health, when we talk about stability, when we talk about workforce, all those things can be collaborated into the approach for Future Ready centers and really help reverse generational poverty in this community. But that's a long-term play that doesn't happen overnight. So just a couple of action steps, I think, and I hope that could come from this. But I think the long-term play really is partnering in some ways to support what's happening at Future Ready.
Can I follow up with that really quick? So the handout that currently shows our shared services amongst either city, county, USD 259, or city and USD 259. The Future Ready centers are something that the city has invested in thanks to federal ARPA dollars. And so the healthcare one received approximately $2 million from the city, again, through federal ARPA dollars. And the Future Ready manufacturing had $1.7 million, again, city from ARPA dollars. My question then, I'm going to throw back to you, Chairman Beatty. On the county side, you're a big advocate for Future Ready centers, and so am I. Full disclosure, along with Pete, I'm also on the board of WSU Tech. And so I'd like to know, on what aspects does the county help out with Future Ready currently?
I don't know if currently we're helping out at all. And I think when we talk about the healthcare piece of it, Kelly mentioned the biomed school that's coming and the collaboration there, but we have a $100 million mental health hospital coming too, with 200 staff there. And the questions that are happening inside the rooms are, how are we going to staff this while we're also staffing ComCare Crisis, while we have St. Joe and what they're doing. There's a significant staffing crisis in this community that doesn't go away because we turn our head. And we've got to start thinking pipeline and future development. So I can see ComCare, things that are happening at the biomed school on trying to help in the healthcare piece of it. EMS, obviously, at the EMT program. I love the trades piece that you're talking about because, I'm a college product with an undergrad and graduate degree, but this is not the path for everyone. And we've got to make sure these individuals have the capacity to make a good, high-paying job right out of high school. And this is fabulous. I see fire service and law enforcement. We're sending kids now to, I think, Hutch Community College for fire service, and we can do this here locally. So there's just some incredible opportunities that I don't pretend to know all about. The county's not participating in a meaningful way now with our current resources and staffing that I think there could be collaboration there.
I'd like to just throw out there that just a reminder, I guess, that we're levying 1.5 mils for the entire county in support of Wichita State University, and within county budget, we provide about $3 million a year to capital investment, pay off the capital investment for like NCAT, for example. So we are financially invested, if you will, in you want to call it the Future Ready, but we're invested, if you will, as a county government in long-term career, training. So I don't know that we should say we're not doing something. We are doing something.
I'm saying in their current Future Ready Center format, which is this is $11 million of 1.5 mils that are going to Wichita State. Maybe there's conversations we have collaboratively if they can help us. WSU Tech is involved in this space. That maybe there's a conversation there that we can have to where we can do this more collaboratively. If we agree that the Future Ready Center is a ticket to long-term health for this community, which before I walked into this building today, I was sold on that concept. So,
Disagree at all. What I'd like to ensure is that as we're doing that, that we are indeed looking at from both a short-term and long-term outcomes perspective that can be benchmarked and actually tracked, so that we can report to the public, so that we can do an on-time data source that persons can access and see what it is that we're doing as a collective. But when we're doing that we are continuing to incorporate the not only health but mental health, as well as family, looking at the family structure and just all of the issues that we know impact persons before they even grace our doors. And when I say our doors, I'm talking about schools. Families come with challenges. Some will call it baggage, but I'm very much, you can probably hear it, but I am very much focused on root causes. I don't like to be able to just glance over and or jump over to an activity that we're believing is going to be the cure-all, without understanding that there are root causes that bring issues and challenges that make positive outcomes difficult and challenging. So I will continue to hopefully impress upon us that that's something that we must do. And I know we're going to talk about it in the second meeting or the next meeting, but it's just something that I don't want us to lose sight of.
And I think Melody brings out a great point, is when you look at those list of 9 items, there's only one that's a tangible, and that was the Future Ready Center. And so I don't want to get lost in just jumping to the solution of, hey, this is the end-all be-all, to figure out, well, we have 8 other things up there that are much more holistic, and they're not just moving to one solution. Oh, hey, this is going to fix everything. Those are more of how do we narrow this down in the future, and how do we do something that's moving us in a direction. And so I think that's what you were saying, is how do we make sure that we're just not jumping to, hey, this is the solution for everything right now.
And as Maggie has said, actually incorporating the input of the public.
Yeah. If I may just add, is I think we have some significant challenges in the community. I think the community expects us to do more than one thing at one time.
Mm-hmm.
If you
Facilitator as interrupter card.
one second, please.
Okay.
Right now, ComCare is using mental health intervention teams, 34 schools. We have 27 liaisons moving into the schools. I think we need to work through this to figure out if there's gaps and if it's meeting the benchmarks. That's important. But if we lose sight of the Future Ready Centers and what it could bring in capacity, we are not being visionary for this community. So I want to implore us, we can do both at the same time. We need to look ahead and figure out the Future Ready Center capacity so we can 10 years, 15 years, 20 years plan ahead for what this community is going to need. It is that important in my view.
So let's do this. Let's have a brief conversation within your body about that question of both the short term and the long term. So here's the ask for your conversation. What might be the area of collaboration that is the most ripe for some short-term wins? And what's the area of collaboration that's really important, that's a longer-term game? And you might decide that those are one and the same, that there's one overarching thing where you see opportunities for short-term gain and playing the long game, and you might decide those are 2 different items. So let's 5 minutes conversation within your body, and see if you can get to some level of consensus on short-term and long-term that you would be willing and interested to explore further and perhaps take back to the public for some more input. Okay? 5 minutes.
Short-term, long-term. I think the short-term very quickly is.
Yeah, you're within your.
It is right.
Your body.
Ready for us as great move as a tri-county, as a tri-entity to exact some wins.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
I know.
Oh, I got it.
Coma. It really gets in the way.
We got enough media to capture
I know.
evidence.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've been asked and warned by people more knowledgeable than Jason and me that this could be an open meeting violation. So we will talk about that as a whole. So thank you. Yeah, I think our other possible move was to put note takers in the small groups, but this, thank you. This is better. Back to your question then, Jason. Back to the question. What could you get behind that would be short term, and what do you think your body and yourself could get behind for long term? And maybe why don't we just go around and hear from everybody? Can we start with you, Julie?
Sure.
Yeah.
I think our group was.
Well, and just if you would take the mic and speak for yourself in terms of what can you get behind?
Okay, well, I'm very excited about the energy that's being exhibited around the Future Ready centers, and for us to work as the three entities on those. They are something that can have quick success. It's easier to determine what the steps are for success, and so I'm excited about that. But then I also believe that these more difficult topics, the underlying topics of the homelessness and the crime prevention, it's maybe not as easy to come up with, well, what can we do practically to help those? Mm-hmm. I think they're more challenging discussions, but to solve those in our city, we have to work together. So I think this expanded group where the professionals get together and we really tackle those difficult discussions and difficult questions. I think for the future health of our community, we've got to work on those topics as well.
Great. And we're going to try to get all the way around in less than 10 minutes, okay? No, you're good because you sort of set things that now people can agree or disagree with, right?
So I agree with Julie. I think that Future Ready centers can be a quick turnaround. And also it's a long term because we hope to have more Future Ready centers to be able to tap in to all the different entities within our community.
Yeah, the short-term future-ready centers as part of a longer-term effort toward workforce and economic development. I will say my priority, though, is that integration between the family community well-being, the mental health and social services, and the crime prevention and reduction. So if there's a fancy...
So that long-term one, yeah, is your priority.
Yeah, and I agree totally that Future Ready is primed and ready. It's to hit it quickly and be able to have some very, very positive outcomes quickly as well. And I agree with Hazel that it's also long term. So it's not the either or, it's both. And look forward to working towards that. But let's just not ever lose sight of the root issues that really have brought us to the table here.
So I've always been a fan of the Future Ready Centers. I'm in construction, so that's a passion project for me. But also, if we expand the Future Ready Centers to be open to families and community personnel for the evenings and weekends, we can start addressing some of these other issues directly in the short term and in the long term by addressing our workforce flow, by addressing family systems that are underfunded through employment. We can address a lot of these issues, I think, through a framework that would be expanded from the Future Ready Centers that would be a collaborative joint effort between the city and the county.
I'm sorry, I just have a quick addition that I'd like to add on how would we actually meet some of the needs of the root causes and root issues. And I think that there is an opportunity for us to work either administratively, collaboratively, and are also looking at building capacity, particularly for CommCare. So when you look at mental health issues, yes, CommCare is ever present, has been, and does a good job. But there are capacity issues. And so how do we build? How do we, as three entities, how do we help to build the capacity? And this is just one example of a service that is being offered that is vital. But we know that it can't meet the needs of everyone. Just an example.
Thank you for all the great comments. I feel bad for the county because by the time we get over there, no, just kidding. I can certainly be supportive of Future Ready, but I just have a few thoughts and concerns. Number one, we have to have WSU Tech at the table, right? And I understand the spirit of this meeting was for the three government bodies to work together, but we need to make sure of that. This is the tool belt generation, right? And instead of referring it as blue collar jobs, many are calling it new collar jobs, right? So I think that we're heading in the right direction. I just want to make sure that we're making data-driven decisions if we decide which area we would focus on next. What would help bring business and industry to our community if we had more skilled workforce in blank. So that's something that's also on my mind. And then, of course, just to make sure that we can evaluate it, right? If we can't evaluate it, why are we going to do it? And then finally, the only other concern I have is just the funding. We were in a very fortunate position with the city of Wichita to be able to allocate our ARPA dollars, but we don't have ARPA dollars anymore. And we all know that budgets are tight. So what could the city also contribute that potentially isn't a fiscal note?
Yeah.
I think transit's some low-hanging fruit that we can, that just goes right through and touches future-ready centers and all sorts of other services. But I also think the long game, the most important thing we need to focus on is family health, family services, mental health services. So continuing on that track as well.
Thank you.
So I came into this discussion really open-minded and started really synthesizing a lot of the information. And I'm about to say something I wasn't expecting to say, and I said it in this group. And I said, I think there's a commonality here when it comes to transportation to work, transportation to a future-ready center, whether it's within USD 259 or outside of USD 259. And the city of Wichita currently has a budget of about $20 million on transit. A majority of that comes from federal dollars. And just last week when we had a council meeting, we were talking about the strategic plan for transit. And there are some efforts to try to align transit, whether it's micro transit or just more focused areas for transit. I see that there's some sort of collaboration that can happen. Just knowing that CommCare had a pilot program with transit and it showed results, knowing that the major hurdle for kids outside of Wichita Public Schools to get to a future ready, because they know the value of a future ready, is transportation. There might be something here that I really see as collaborative. Maybe having that next discussion on something like that. But the long-term, key here is that it can't just be these three bodies. It has to be this community. And so I also feel like this specific effort needs to not only have, yes, government at the table, but I really believe it's community that also needs to be at this table. And it's that community aspect that I think is missing here. the things that we can do are from the government level, and we need to think about those. But when it comes to root causes, I can't be in someone's house. And so I think that there's something there that we need to address, and that is community not being at the table.
The quick notes I wrote down is what is our role in Future Ready Center? If it's just to write a check, that's not collaboration to me. And so what does our role in supporting that look like to us? And so the question I wrote, what is the gap? Is it money? Is it the transit? Is it which skill would better serve our community? Is it trades? Is it the Police Ready Center that you talked with Chief Sullivan about? Like, what is the gap that we can actually have a collaborative institution instead of just writing a check or doing like, how can we actually support this? When we look at duplication and workforce, I'm still on the transit bus because that's going to connect everything in this is how do we get people to workforce? How do we not compete or have duplication of trying to get the same drivers and how do we link all these things together? And I think that is transit. And maybe that ties into Future Ready Center, as the mayor said, or as Councilman Hoheisel said.
Thank you. Really, really, really excited to hear more people have a conversation about transit. I feel like I've been talking about transit, well, for sure ever since I've been on council. It is really, really important, and I think it's something that needs not just the city's attention, but everyone's attention. As I mentioned before, to encourage people to ride it. There is a huge stigma, or appears to be a stigma, with public transportation, and every other, big city that I travel to, we don't sometimes rent a car. We use their public transportation along with the rest of their community. So I think there is a much larger conversation that with the school district, county, and I would echo all of the comments about Future Ready. I'm lucky enough to have one of them over by North High, and it is extremely successful. Woo woo. And I think that I'm really excited to learn about the other subjects of Future Ready centers that are already in the works or conversations.
And I'll just interject that we're headed toward an 11 o'clock stop. And we'll be going to President Albert, Mayor Wu, and Commissioner Beatty to talk about next steps related to your council. Sure. But we'll continue with this question first.
Appreciate the dialogue today and the feedback. I think a lot of people learned some things today, and I think that was an objective we wanted to accomplish, was raise some awareness on these topics. The regional transit conversations, the conversations happening at WAMPO, as Becky would tell you, this is a conversation that is ongoing. So I think we could learn more into what that capacity really looks like. For me, short term would be actually scheduling a more comprehensive discussion around the mental health services, family and community well-being, public safety piece of it. And again, I think we can get very narrowly focused on the homeless population and foster care population at 259 and the interventions that have to take place there. I'll remind the group, there's 1,400 kids in Sedgwick County in foster care. 70% of those will touch the criminal justice system. Only 45% will graduate high school, and 1 out of 4 will end up homeless when they age out of the system. So we could laser sharp focus on these two issues, and we can make a lot of progress in the short term. For me, the long-term conversation has to go around bigger community conversations around this Future Ready Center. I truly believe this is a pipeline that can really reverse trajectory of generational poverty that's taking place in the school district. So I'm excited to follow up with these discussions and continue to press in.
Thank you. Test. Okay. Respect all of the comments so far, and before we started, Julie, I basically hit my first and second were what you referenced. It. The Future Ready Centers is the lowest hanging fruit, in my opinion, and the helping attack in the long term the crime and the homelessness issue. If that's what you said, that was mine. Thank you.
I would agree with that as well. I think that the Future Ready centers and transit can work alongside each other. I was exposed to the need of the transit issue when I was going through Leadership Wichita, and that we have, transit lives under Wichita right now. What does it look like to become a regional transit city or regional transit community? I think the short game, we can look at that. I think long term, it is focusing on the health of our families. That's a root cause issue, like what has been said, and it's going to take all of us. I think our community depends on government to help in those roles, even though that maybe that's not what we're supposed to be doing. I think that that's what our families need. And in order to get to those families, we can go through our children at the school district, and that's getting them literate, making sure that we're teaching well, but we're also setting them up for a future that's successful.
I do think the transit center is the biggest opportunity between the three entities, but I don't want to just limit it to the future workforce. I want to open it up to everything, because I think there's a lot of opportunities just from the impact on our streets, the fuel, the resources, the drivers, the manpower. I think there's a lot more to it. Yep. And also, the public safety part of it, I think amongst all three entities, between, WPD, the sheriff, the school district, just keeping our streets safe. I think it's all three of these are definitely things we can work on.
As I read through the over 100 ideas that were presented by the public, it did not generate this item on our list. This was added essentially by heads of the three elected bodies for additional consideration. So I'd like to just point out that this wasn't necessarily part of the forum that happened, but this is something that we apparently are convinced this is something we needed to consider. And having said that, I think we should start by, number one, recognizing what we're doing well and identifying the problem and opportunities. As I read this long list of ideas, the 9 items, if you will, there's a lot of spending attached to these ideas. And I think one of the biggest problems we have in this community is that people are feeling overtaxed. And I want to be really careful not to consider, new ways to spend money necessarily, but recognize what we're doing well. If we are going to spend more money, we got to try to find ways to do this efficiently. So I'm not against the idea of future ready, but I do think we're doing a lot of things already. Again, with WSU Tech especially, are great opportunities. One of the things I talked to Andy Schlapp about was transitioning some of the graduate support scholarships over to the low-income scholarships for people who are having more difficulty accessing college. And he seemed like he's very supportive of that idea. So again, I think there's things we can do, maybe do a better job communicating to our students of opportunities in the community. Again, I just reflect back when I was a Southeast High School graduate, but back in the day, we didn't really have, I don't think we had as much communication to students about what are the opportunities that are already existing in the community. And I'll just say also, as an employer, we should embrace more internships and prepare these students in high school to take on jobs more readily, if you will, as they transition into the career. Be willing to accept some of those students into our organizations. Give them a chance to start their career in county government or city or school government. So I don't say there's not opportunities here. There are, but I'd like to start off by recognizing what we're doing already and what we're doing well. And I don't want to necessarily look at this as a funding problem. I think there may be more communication, if you will, may be part of the solution here. I want to be very careful not to just simply throw more money at something we don't really understand completely. Thank you.
And communication among these bodies and staffs may lead to more communication and collaboration out in the community.
And I completely agree with you. I think communication is one of our biggest opportunities. But again, in terms of trying to provide more efficient shared services, I don't know. I'm not sure this is the answer. If you want to really get back to the reason why we're sitting here today, I don't know this is going to provide, if you will, an efficient attack to how we provide government services to our community. I do think the administrative discussion has the greatest opportunity. If you really want to look at for more efficiency, providing better services to the community, if we lower the cost on administration, it provides more dollars available to services. They are connected on the back end. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I think we're at the point where Diane, then Ryan, then Lily, if you could speak to what you're seeing as next steps related to what we've talked about today.
Yeah, so we've talked about a lot of things. We've talked about root causes. We've talked about things that we can do better, things that we can expand on, and new items. And so to kind of piggyback on what Jim just said, I do think the Future Ready centers can address a lot of these things, because if you have a community that is well employed, if you have a workforce that is well staffed, it does address some of the root issues that people are not dependent upon government services that are already being provided. And so that's more of a long-term solution. That's not going to be a short-term fix. That's not going to be something that we see overnight, but I think it builds up our community and makes us stronger and less dependent upon the government services that we all feel the constraints of our budgets right now with. And so as far as next steps, I think we as a school district can probably put some fast facts together about the Future Ready centers. We can do probably more communication around what the Future Ready centers are, what we're doing. We've heard a lot of conversation about transit. And so I do have one of our staff members here with us today that we already do collaborate a lot with the city transit. So there already is shared services and collaboration there. But we can do a better job of communicating with the general public of what exactly are Future Ready centers, why this is so vital to our community, and how this does impact our workforce, our mental health supports for our community, and individuals. When people feel like they have a purpose and they unlock their potential, that is something that you cannot take away from that individual, and that brings dignity and life value to their families. So we can do that for next steps.
Thank you.
Good. Well, thanks again, City of Wichita, Public Schools. Thank you. KLC, thanks for hosting, and for those that came to listen in and those listening online. One of the comments that was made at our town hall on June 4th, a gentleman said that we don't even know where to begin because we don't have a baseline understanding of how your budgets work. And that resonated with me, as we were asking them for their input without making them aware of how we're already working together. So I think today was an opportunity to raise up the level of baseline awareness of what's actually going on and where the gaps are and where the needs are. I would just say, as we talk about next steps, is the $2.3 billion of our budgets, our three budgets right now, we should not be afraid to pivot. If we identify gaps, we shouldn't be afraid to pivot, not spend more money, but to use our resources more collaboratively in a way that gets better results. I don't know if there's anyone in this room that is happy with the data and the results that we're outputting right now. I think there's successes. I think there's some really good stories and anecdotes of successes, but I don't know that we can all say that we're all pleased completely with the output in this community, but we can do better. So I would just encourage these three bodies and those that are going to come to the table of future conversations that we should not settle, that we cannot settle, that we have to keep looking for pivots and opportunities to serve better. So the next steps, I believe, will be this short-term discussion, this second conversation. I want to learn more about Future Ready Center. There will be another town hall. For those that are listening online that are texting me right now, there will be another town hall to streamline the conversation so that the community can have input into what we're doing and what we're talking about, because that is needed. We work for the people of this community. That is needed to get their input to help shape these outcomes. So again, thank you so much for everybody being here today. I've really enjoyed the conversation. Mayor?
Thank you, Diane, and thank you, Ryan, and thank you to the two bodies, in addition to City being here, as well as the staff that has been able to help out with this conversation. As you all know, one of the 9 themes was civic engagement and governance, and only one sticker was on there. But this is literally all we did today. Everyone who's watching online, everyone who's here in this room, probably learned something new today. And the whole idea is that each one of us are elected by individuals in our community. And if as individuals we had 10 priorities, add that together, we have so many priorities. So we really need to focus. And I'm really grateful that during these last 2 hours, we focused. We focused on how 3 separate entities can actually have conversations together And maybe some even learned that we have something called the Kansas Open Meetings Act, which means no more than so many of us can be in one room together having a private conversation before it becomes a violation. That's why we had to have this space where we're all speaking into microphones, but that is the reason. And I think that in itself helps people understand why we are a transparent government. We want to have that dialogue with community, but if community doesn't even understand that we're even three separate entities, we've got to start from the bottom. And I really am appreciative that, again, USD 259 agreed to come here, that Commission agreed to come here, and the council agreed to come out of City Hall to the Kansas Leadership Center. And seeing these reminds me that we still have a long way to go to just explain how our own governments work, whether it's school board, city, or county. Now we have some pamphlet, but that still doesn't explain everything we do. And so what I am encouraged about is city and county are in the thick of the budget right now. The month of August is when we're having a lot of engagement with community regarding the dollars that are from this community and investing in specific areas that we care about. And I know that tonight, County Commission will have a town hall on your budget tomorrow. The city will have a budget hearing next week on Thursday evening, our third evening meeting of the year. And I can't speak for USD 259, but you guys also.
We're in the thick of it too.
Exactly. So all three of us want to hear from our community. And so while this meeting was for the electeds to engage in an open conversation, you're always welcome to come to city, to county, or USD 259 to share your thoughts. And USD 259 meets on Monday evenings, City Council meets on Tuesday mornings, County Commission meets on Wednesday mornings, and we want more engagement. And in order to engage more thoughtfully, I think KLC helped us today in just understanding that it is difficult. This is difficult work, just focusing on one area. And while all of these are intertwined in some way, whether it's root causes or solutions that we want to come to, it's difficult work, and it does require all of us to be working together. And so I am so grateful to each of you for letting us have the very first Tri-Governmental meeting between three elected bodies to have an open conversation. This is a win. This is an actual win. And we listened to community saying they wanted to be heard, but we wanted it to be a collaborative model that KLC has come up with on having something that is tangible moving forward. So I just want to say thank you for being a gem in our community, KLC, and helping us have these open conversations. And I'm very grateful to all of you for participating online just by viewing, but don't forget to engage with us. We are people that want to engage with our community and come up with paths forward. And all of these areas we talked about, there is movement on. And so I'm very grateful again to all of you. And I know that quarter one, we still were gathering our thoughts, but quarter two, we had our first town hall meeting on June 4th. Quarter three is right now. We're having this governmental one. And so in quarter four, you can expect a follow-up town hall that Chairman Beatty, as well as President Diane Albert and I will again help out with. And so I am very encouraged that we're continuing to move forward.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, KLC staff. Let's give them a hand. And the city and county and school board staff, thank you all so very much. Thanks, Jason.
We're adjourned.